Hey y'all. So this is going to be a short lesson today. It's really just this slide. And again, when I do the live session, I spend a lot of time on especially civil law. But I'm just going to touch on what these are here. And so I'll finish with the case on the top. Where we left off yesterday was with Dred Scott, which was a states' rights decision. And so that was in the 1850s. Later in the 1800s and early 1900s, the court shifted to favor federal power much more than it did in the pre-Civil War time, in that 10 years or so before the Civil War. So it evolved eventually, though, where throughout much of the 1900s, the court was side federal power often. But the court, sort of as a result of some Republican presidents getting to appoint more justices than Democratic presidents, by the 1990s, the court started to swing a little bit towards allowing states' rights. And in Prince v. U.S., it's a famous, and some would say infamous, court decision. The court struck down part of the Brady Bill. The Brady Bill was a law passed as a result of an assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan, where one of his aides was struck by a bullet and put in a pretty bad spot. He spent the rest of his life suffering from a head wound from the bullet, James Brady. And so the Congress passed something called the Brady Bill. One part of the Brady Bill said that when people go buy handguns, that local government would have to conduct background checks. And the court said that that was a violation of federal power, that they did not have the right under the Necessary and Proper Clause to force, say, the town of Cary or something to do the background checks on that. Now, states could choose to do it and towns could choose to do it or whatever, but the federal government could not force the local government to do that. So they declared in a states' rights decision part of the Brady Bill unconstitutional. And that was just kind of showing you that how we've sort of cycled from federal power to state power to federal power to state power a little bit now in the way the court tends to decide. Now, we're going to do a lot of, in the next chapter especially, though, we'll do a lot of court cases. And I want you to see where this, what this all means. So three broad categories of cases. Now, so the bold ones here. Cases fall under criminal law, civil law, or public law. Getting out of the way, the one that we deal with first is constitutional law as a type of public law. Underneath that, though, administrative law, I don't know a lot about it. I don't really care about it. None of you would really care about it. It'd be really boring. Administrative law would be rules that the agencies would pass and how they enforce them and maybe punish people. So I gave you the example a while back of the EPA. So administrative law would be the EPA's rules, and when they punish someone for those. For most of us, we'll never know really much about that type of law at all. And it'd be pretty dry, pretty boring. But the other type of public law, constitutional law, that right there is all we do. So every case that we really get into here would be constitutional law. It'd be, is a law constitutional or not? What is the court? This is a Supreme Court thing. So that's the big one. I actually I always took a class one time at UNC where the professor, it was a law class, and the professor, we walked in the first day, and he goes, "You all want to argue cases in front of the Supreme Court. You all want to be constitutional lawyers." He goes, "I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but you're not going to be. That's just so rare to argue cases, constitutional cases in front of the Supreme Court." He goes, "You're all going to be contract lawyers." And people think of that as being pretty boring. And so anyway, but he did say, he understands that people get into law because they're interested. They find it fun to argue. They find it fascinating, knowing the Constitution really well, going back and forth with someone and arguing whether something is constitutional, free speech or free press or right to bear arms or whatever. So all the cases we do will be constitutional law cases. Now, looking at the other two here, the first two, though, criminal law and civil law, this would be more if you are taking Law and Justice. Criminal law is the one that most Americans probably find the most interesting. I don't at all. Criminal law, to me, bores me. Did someone commit a murder? Was it a rape? Is it an assault? Is it an arson? And that's, but all those shows are so popular, Law and Order and whatever else, CSI and whatever else. I can't stand them. doesn't interest me. So criminal law, most criminal cases get never make it to court. They get plea deals, and so they'll lower the punishment so somebody doesn't take it to court. So anyway, so criminal cases, you would think of the punishment possibly being a fine. It could be the death penalty. It could be juvenile detention. It could be community service. It could be any, again, we know most of probably what that is, probation, things like that. Civil law now, this is the one that people often say is dumb or annoying. So you get criminal law, again, most Americans probably find it interesting. Public law, the constitutional law part is sort of a scholarly side of law that a lot of people just love the intellectual debate. Civil law, anything is civil. You see, it comes from civis in Latin, and so you are thinking really about citizens, people. So civil law is usually between people. So it could be a person suing a person, or a person and a company, or a company and a company, or something like that. In civil law cases, the punishment is not going to be jail. So often it will be money has to go one way or the other. It could be any number of other things, custody, or you hear a lot of things in divorce cases. So, I just hired someone to hang drywall, sheetrock, in the upstairs in my garage that I'm working on. I did a lot of it. I don't want to do all the rest, and so it's just too much work. I'll paint it, and I did all the insulation, but so I'm giving this guy his company a lot of money, and he makes me nervous because he is a 1 or 2 person company, it sounds like. And so I wrote him a check for a lot of money the other day so he could buy the materials, and now I'm nervous he won't do it. So if he doesn't complete it, or if he runs off with the money or something, then that would be something that could be a contract violation, or it could go to a civil, basically nobody would go to jail if he didn't finish the job, but there'd be some kind of financial compensation. So under civil law, you think of contract law, which could be closing on a house. You have a lawyer go over all your paperwork to make sure that before you sign away a house and pay money to someone that the contract's right. Contract law would be a big time. Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs just signed a almost $500 million deal. So obviously there were lawyers sitting down going over every word of the contract. Torts, though, is what we normally think of as civil law. Torts is you claim that somebody harmed you through their actions or inactions. So in this case, sometimes you get what we would say dumb lawsuits. Somebody, maybe it's not a dumb, some people think of the hot coffee at McDonald's, you might know about that, or if not, you can look it up. That was many years ago, but it's a very famous one. But it could be, again, look up dumb lawsuits sometime. I'm not going to, on this format, get into it, but could be all kinds of things where, come on, you should have known that, you shouldn't have done that, why should you be able to sue? But then people sue. So people, in America, we can sue over almost anything here. And so those are the lawsuits. And the idea is sometimes you'll have massive settlements or massive decisions where someone sues a company and the company has to pay $100 million. And the thinking is sometimes that by having big settlements, big agreements, that you send the message that the other people in the future will not do the same thing. They'll not make the same mistake that led to whatever the damage was, that they'll be careful ahead of time because they're afraid of that massive settlement. So anyway, those are the 3 types of laws: criminal law, breaking a law; civil law, you think of lawsuits mostly; and then public law and our constitutional law. So that's about all I'll ever talk about criminal law or civil law. The cases we deal with will be constitutional law. So I appreciate everybody hanging in there. And again, a live session, I'll get into those first 2, criminal and civil, a lot more. Thank you very much.